Alrighty, this is Greg Beston here, playing Close Combat Invasion of Normandy. First thing we gotta do, we gotta create a scenario for the game. It's a basic Command and Conquer type deal, except there's no resource mining. You get to play around with your resources, which are battle groups, and it's just laid out a little different. First of all, if you have any historical context about World War II, you can kind of get an idea of what's happening here. Now, in Normandy, France, we all know that the Americans and Canadians and British launched their battle, launched their invasion. Sorry. Air, sea, and they had a plan, and as we know, it worked. So now, with this game, we have a little bit of freedom to create any scenario we like. So, just randomly speaking, we could set up the fight just like it happened in real life, almost. Or we can switch things up and have it different, like dramatically different. Like, the first thing I'm going to do is that we could have the Germans invading the peninsula instead of the Americans. Or any number of scenarios, I suppose. But to keep the game simple, I think I'll just stick it out with the Germans defending the peninsula like it did in real life. So, what I'm going to do is lay out all my forces on this map and see where it leads us here to. And the thing is that we have to also set up supply routes, bases, and basically set up how they attack us as well, which is very interesting. So I'm going to lay down all my troops here on the board. Hopefully you guys can all see most of this. And let's see what we can do here. Well, here's the historical beaches here where my mouse cursor is. And each one of these squares is a map. And on each map will take place at least multiple fights. It's interesting because after the battle, the damage is left there for another fight, and the battle scars are left evident, which is really cool. Alright. Well, I guess I'm going to drop a couple of mechanized divisions. I suppose we should traditionally keep ourselves heavily fortified for the beach landing. Well, we're going to have to put our mechanized in reserve, the infantry in the front, and if they get past the infantry, we could dash in with a mechanized unit. Now what you can do when you keep clicking the spot is you can designate it a supply post. So I'm gonna make a couple of supply depots out of these locations. Alrighty. Now, from what I remember of the game, there's certain high points that we are going to want to keep and to use. Alright. Now, Shoreburg is a harbor, so that we could help coordinate the logistics of the invasion. We have a fortified area of pillboxes over here that is just great defendable position. It's like the meat grinder. People just keep banging their heads on it and they're done. And it's forested, so like tanks really can't even get really that close to the bunkers to even take them out, even if you had them at your disposal. Carrington is also equally important. There's this bridge that's almost unbeatable as well, that we probably want to keep some mechanized or infantry. Now, as the defenders, I could just lay out all my troops right away, because naturally they'd all be waiting there. And the enemy, I could create how it attacks the peninsula. Again, we could use historical basis and try to pull off the same thing that they did before, but or we could switch things up and do it a little differently. Now, there's a castle here, some towns and villages, but really, I think the most important part of the map is probably this top part up here, because it has a lot of fortifications, it is the main beaches, it is the road for Carrington and out of here. So I'm going to have my forces laid out kind of thick on this side of the map, and we'll have a couple on the inside. But some of this stuff is just not even useful. But I guess we gotta lay the troops anywhere. Sometimes there's really no strategic pattern. I'm just trying to set them up the best I can on the focus on the hard areas. And see how this goes. Battle group info. On all the material that we could use. Mortar teams, cannons, flamethrower teams, heavy MG42 teams, light MG42 teams, mortars, all that fun stuff. Okay, now this is a scenario timeline, day one. We have everyone fully supported. August, on the same day, we're going to have the landing. Now, we're going to hit some of these hard points. You do airborne drop on all the hard locations that I described at defending, making some good bites. Of course, we'd have them landing behind the beach. And we're just going to have them hit the beach pretty hard. Alright. I just made this all kind of random. But let's get to the actual fight here. Well, we made a scenario. So now we got our own custom game anyway. Alright. Now, we have our scenario created. As the map tells us, these are our areas of conflict right away, where the red and the green dots are meeting. And on each turn, that's going to tell us each one of the, there's going to be that many battles where those markers meet. And after we beat those, will be the next round of battles. But since I kind of quickly made this map, it kind of only, it'll throw everything at once, so they ain't gonna stretch out that far. Over here, it tells what time it is, the date, weather, and then we have also extras, aerial bombardment, naval bombardment. And these are just extra weapons you could use to soften up troops and stuff like that. Handy sometimes, but not the game changer really. But let's see what we do here. Alright. Now we got everything down, we can have our first fight. Here is where we pick from our fighting unit how many characters to choose in a fight. Well, usually I just start from scratch. Get a tiny glimpse of the enemy. It looks like they have a couple of tanks. A lot of infantrymen. So we're going to need something to make sure we take out those tanks. So we got to keep that in mind. That we are going to need guns. Big guns to destroy the tanks. I'm going to use 3 teams of mortar teams. Sprinkle random shelling on people. It's nice. Keeps them pinned down, demoralized. Works really good. So there's gonna be lots of guys. So set up some machine guns. Couple cannons, and then we need some bulk. Some bar teams. We like their numbers. Lots of people. Assault team. So we got a couple of guns. Mortar teams. Machine gun teams. And we got also some command squads, bar teams. Tell you what each person has and what they do, and your commanding officer right there. And I think we're good. We'll go on to the fight.